Hey everyone! Thank you so much for joining Archangel Alts. Let me go ahead and get this set up for you. Hope everybody is doing well today. We're doing a live market watch, instant insights for you guys. And things are going really crazy. I've got my signals set up here, and we have up, down, Raven, POA, waves, crazy stuff going on. Been watching the volume drop, and barely had time enough to get coffee before streaming live before this happened. So I was actually trying to get things set up to go live just over here. So hilarious how that always happens. But this has really shaken up what was already a very delicate market. So it's going to be one of those gets worse before it gets better type scenarios. And I want to take a look, make sure we got everything going there correctly. Yes. I'm going to try to keep this quick because things could shift very, very quickly, and we're watching positions. So things have been very, 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 very challenging. A lot of people, it's very easy from the outside in to think that, Bitcoin's up, the whole world must be better. And, the problem is that there is not enough volume. This market needs real, genuine, ground level, full grassroots support, mass adoption. So, Archangel Alts, I am Gordon Freeman, the free man, helping to lead you from the darkness into the light through the crypto revolution. Mass adoption comes from liquidity. Liquidity comes trading on a legitimate exchange. We choose Binance. And we always put up a link. Make sure to come and join our live webinar. We'll get the timers reset and make sure you know when the next one's coming up. Contact you directly. Really and truly, go ahead and jump in and join our community. I know that there's a lot of FUD and FOMO going on out there. Tend to watch, just enough of the Discord and Reddit groups and the articles that are out there, and there's just a lot of misfiring of information. So even though people are a little bit standoffish and it's a little bit slow right now, the people that are talking just need to put the truth out there. This is never an attack against specific people. I don't believe in attacking people, but I do believe in correcting information that can be detrimental to people's, literally tens of millions of dollars and the future of money as we know it. So a little bit on the line, just a wee bit, just a little bit. But yeah, the idea that this is the bull run, no, this is not a bull run. Bull run is going to happen from there being more genuine trading going on, not from manipulation of numbers. That pushing Bitcoin down to 3,000, lifting it up to 7, 8, 10,000. There are whales out there that can do that at any time that they please. It takes hundreds of millions of dollars to do that kind of thing, and $700 over the past week. It was done in under an hour. $700 move on Bitcoin took $80 million. I'm just assessing the part that I'm watching on Binance. You can take that and scale it to the larger market. So that is the thing. So I've been watching. There's been $100 million drop. Bitcoin traded against Tether, USDT trading against the dollar. That has happened over the past about 10 hours, about $100 million drop. So we were in the mid to high $200 million 24-hour volume range. USDT traded with Bitcoin on the Binance Exchange. That is dropping. We've been getting in and out of some really strong positions with CELRIOST and TNB as in boy. And those are all just kind of suffering from this constant shift that's going on. So what I've been watching is to see whether there's going to be the next spike in Bitcoin. I can't imagine that this isn't the trend that will continue. The thing is that when the heavy trading volume that is insider volume that causes a FOMO effect, fear of missing out effect, from outsiders that then buy into it, unfortunately what happens is it creates this tsunami effect where it kind of sucks all of the gravity into itself towards kind of falsely inflated trading. So as that wave of trades grows in just one centralized area in Bitcoin, things start to run dry in the 47, 48% of the rest of the market, which is not good. So things that happen, the most valuable coins will either see the most substantial rise or fall, and that can create a gap between the two. And people mistakenly believe that that positive or negative correlation with something like Litecoin or XRP or Ethereum or even Ethereum Classic, some of the Tron. Okay, I will recognize it is in fact a coin. That negative correlation means that it opens up a pocket where you can trade them against each other. And signals become very confused between whether it's a good short, meaning that you're actually shorting the position, saying, I think Litecoin will go down when Bitcoin goes up, or doing it against fiat, which has its own kind of confusing processes, or something will stay in sync, which means that you would need to choose a low position in Bitcoin to then sell to Ethereum if they're both linked to each other, for example, assuming that they're both going to go up. Well, you can look at the past hour to see that it went down to, the low 5100s, and that can cause a little bit of a scare. So when you have this little bit of a buy-in, it was only a couple $100,000 to go from about here, 36 to 79. This was very quick, very big deal, and we actually see, depending on how much the drop-off was, 154 Bitcoin there, about 20 Bitcoin there. So I think that this is going to be heading more towards the high side. I don't think that this is setting up a sell. Nobody really knows. I don't want to spend too much time trying to be overly predictive. This is a little bit more about observation and correcting the course. But if the pattern that has been going on continues, it is not a specific time of day thing. You can't just set your clocks to midnight or 5 before or 12:15 or all the different times that it's been doing stuff. It was kind of becoming standard that you can wait to go into positions until 1:30 a.m. And no, it's happening at 9, at 10, at 11, at 12, 1 a.m., 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., all the different stuff is just circulating and not in a predictive pattern. There's been a lot of smaller spikes, little pumps going on along the way. Let's see if I can call them back up to memory. Yes, WPR is one of them. And I think, it just lost all of its momentum. So hope you guys weren't sitting at the top on that one. And, this is the unfortunate truth of short-term pumps. This is smaller people activity. I don't think that it's groups. If it is groups, they're very, small wind following probably one person. And that doesn't really help many people out as far as I'm concerned. POA was another one. Let me grab it from here. Oh, it looks like, no, ION's going down. Okay. See, these are, it's very false alarming to try to follow the positives. For instance, CELR is kind of a newly important one on our radar. It's been sitting right in the right pocket, getting lots and lots of volume. It's up another like 200 BTC just over the past several minutes. But, we're in a position where we have a lot riding on it being able to do this upward natural trend that it was doing through here. And it's going to self-correct whenever it does. But, that can just kind of throw off momentum. So, this market has been very treacherous. I believe that CELR is worth about the mid 550s. That's what I think its real value is. I think that it's probably not going to get a really great chance to show that that's the case, though. So we shall see. If it can make it back up to the 4s, that'll be really cool. You can see that this is a relatively small bounce in the bigger picture of things, but you have this, 2-3 time fall, then a steady staircasing, and then you can see the slope where it starts to weaken. A little bit of a push up, then this harder fall down here, and then a really good, we're not going to take it response there, and I like that a lot. So this is not, it's not a severe downward trend compared to what I think that it should be able to do. I think that this is one of those projects that could actually kind of matter in the marketplace, and I don't see Binance's backing of projects in the launchpad process as being an arbitrary thing. I think that they're looking for things that are not going to have to delist, so that aspect of it is very important. REN is showing a little bit more strength. We're actually looking for it to be able to correct all the way up to the top of its value. So we have one just real long term because we're expecting to be able to surpass its initial stuff. IOST, looking for it to get back up to its peak, and part of the reason for that being what we think it's really worth. This I think was higher than the average that it should have been. We're getting close to a year that we're looking at here. But as you can see, 300 compared to 700 or 800, not really even significant to look at. But there's a lot of stuff following. I have my scanner set to kind of follow this stuff. Fun, I think, easily should be shooting for the 200 range. I think that's not overly optimistic when you get into the May of 2018 range, 5 times what it is right now. So just be very careful, and please realize that just Bitcoin going up in price does not mean that this is a bull run. Bull run has to be defined by a rise in volume. And the volume doesn't necessarily have to mean, there's another $1 billion in the market that wasn't there before. Volume can simply come from an acceleration of good trading decisions. And a lot of people have this concept that there's a lot of manipulation. I saw one article recently about accidental manipulation happening from some bots that were not programmed correctly. What will happen is very, very interesting. People will set up their bots to follow somebody's programmed responses. So let's say you have a program, and this program lets you sign in and connect your API to the back end of your trades, okay? And it's very secure, it's very safe, as long as you don't click on something to give that away, or you don't compromise your computer in a cheap public Wi-Fi non-secure location. So what happens is that you're able to trade on behalf of your own account, and you can go in and say, hello bot, I want you to watch the stock RSI when it goes down to here. I want you to trigger a buy, and then only when it stays up beyond this amount for this length of time do I want you to sell. And I also want you to compare that to the MACD. And so it'll say, okay, low on stock RSI, low on MACD, I'll buy here. And, high on the MACD, high on the other thing, sell here. Or only if it reaches a certain number, only if it reaches a certain percentage. Well, there are people out there that will put together paid and free signals. Well, they're set where you can go through that same program and say, use George's configuration. And George may have tweaked to this number, said, a whole bunch of conditions. If it does this, then this. If it does that, then that. And then you put it in there. Well, George or the program itself may have made an error, and one of those predictions or percentages may have crossed the other thing. And so people were accidentally selling Bitcoin at 10% below its current market value. And that caused a scare sell-off, which lowered the price of Bitcoin. So little things like that are going on, but I don't think that they are planned mass market manipulation type things going on. I think little errors happen here or there. It's just very delicate. Okay, so pollen season is here. So now it's not just normal random sneezing, but not just broadcast sneezes, but actual sneezy season sneezing. So yes. Pardon me. Gonna get back over to Electric Avenue. So our current value of Bitcoin is 5168. It's done this stuff, and now it seems like it wants to level off a tiny bit. Here's the live look here. So this is a little bit wider than normal. This is a little bit wider than normal, but I think that this is going to start to repeat over here. The question is whether it scales down or scales up this time. So, we tend to, over time, once an hour or two of activity passes, see a mirroring of previous moves. This looks like it might be another up, but I think that it's going to have trouble pushing through the 5200 this time. So what is healthy? What would look healthy? Well, right now, if Bitcoin continues doing what it's actually doing, the healthiest thing would be whoever the real traders are. I think that there's about $80 million worth of real trading going on from Bitcoin to Ethereum, Bitcoin to Litecoin, Bitcoin to XRP, Bitcoin to the dollar in its various versions. Genuine $80-90 million worth. So anything above that is, personal whale money pumping. I mean, that's what's happening. I am telling you the truth about that. So what would be healthy is then, little exaggerated bit here and there, but very slow and steady, not huge spikes. And when it gets to that 90 million, 80 million, 70 million, 60 million range, to see that money fluctuate between all of these lower capacity coins lock in place with whatever that current value of Bitcoin is. And then Bitcoin is able to steadily go up to 5,200, 5,250, 5,300, while those are not just rising with it, but as that rise happens, they're very cheap for people to buy in. Meaning that even if there's a little bit of spiking, a little bit of pump, a little bit of buying in way too low, causing it to have temporary drops, all of those different things together, a little bit of that is okay, because then the alts can kind of stay in lock with Bitcoin going up. It doesn't have to go up at the detriment of the other 47-48% of the market. It just doesn't. So we kind of have, the pie is sliced sort of to where, let's just pretend that Bitcoin is half. And then, Ethereum is 10%, XRP 10%, Litecoin 10%, etc. And then, so you have, let's just say about 30% of all of the rest of the market is everything else. Some of those are so insignificant, eventually they're going to fall off. Okay. And we're not interested in trying to focus on any of those. In fact, I think it would surprise me if there's more than 2 or 3 of those over the lifetime of trading that actually end up being what we're currently seeing on Binance. An example being a big unknown like BTT, because I'm not buying into the hype. I haven't seen anything reflected in the market that suggests that anybody other than the people that don't get screwed over are making big money. If you happen to get in at 14 and you happen to sell it at 15, then it is a big passive move. So if you've got 100 Bitcoin, I could see putting one at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, and then just leave it there and, keep monitoring it in case it has continued to drop down there. But people are sold on the idea that, Tron's going to make them a bazillion again. And Mr. Tron, I mean, he's not supporting much of a value in Tron itself. There's a lot of volume trading at its, reducing value. The price is going down and down, but a lot of trading is happening at those lower figures. The way that I look at this is that this is 465 Bitcoins that could be used in the market for CELR, for DOC, for DNT, for fun. And those are actually moving stuff, even with really, this actually is pretty high volume going on right now. So CELER, we did a coin video on this, and I think that you would find it very interesting. But I think that it is worth at least in the high fours. I'm not buying this, and this bounce was a pretty strong one, but let's see. That was from 22. Yes, it'll be 24 hours, but I don't want to see it have to bounce from over here again. We are actually waiting for some of that to clear, so that would be healthy for us. A little bit of, selfish interests there. But so Steam keeps getting hit. This is one of the biggest, in my opinion, true believer coins. People really think that this is going to make a cultural shift difference. And I really like some of the people that I'm meeting in the Steam community. So, Lord willing, we'll make more and more connections with those folks. So Raven is showing some really strong movement again. And I believe that Raven is one of the very few that has actually outdone its initial listing value. Yeah, I mean, it's, oh my goodness, almost doubled in some cases. So I think that there's a lot of good stuff going on there. Yeah. REQ seems to be working its way up again. This is kind of the pattern that I'd like to see happening with CELR and some of the others, for this to be, like I was talking about, being able to resync with Bitcoin so that if it goes up steadily, that volume can be a benefit. I have talked a lot about what it takes for a real bull run. We would need to see Bitcoin steadily doing $500, $600 million 24-hour volume on Binance. But that needs to translate to, I would say, a good 40,000, 50,000 Bitcoins worth of activity in the alts that it's trading against. So let's say $5,000 for Bitcoin times 40,000. I'm not going to be able to count the zeros very well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would be 1 million, 10 million. So yeah, I mean, yeah, about $200 million. So yeah, I mean, if we can see a $1 billion daily market on Binance, that would be, $300, $400 billion of actual volume being traded in a year. But my goodness, a month or 2 months into that, if anybody is signing up with us to trade correctly, then that's just going to increase the growth, because people can start to siphon off 5-10% of that daily once they get beyond the $1 million a day kind of range, just like what we're projecting. Really more than that. IOST starting to kick in. Very, very good. This is what we're hoping to see. If Bitcoin can just do a slow and steady, even 174 million is okay. But the main thing is that if it does an artificial $500, $600 million worth of volume because people freak out about it going up suddenly, all that's doing is hurting everything that it can actually be a benefit to. It's kind of like saying, the good news is 50% of the market is up. The bad news is that the other 50% of the market is down 27% more than Bitcoin is up, meaning that the gap has now widened for the things that you want to find value in. Bitcoin is that common denominator. Go is a very good example of that. It was getting, in my opinion, this was not artificial. This was not artificial. And so seeing it have to kind of go back down and work its way all the way back up again, it is absolutely a 700, 800, 900 working its way into the next decimal position. It's a higher value coin. I absolutely think that it's fair to assume that it's worth more in this range, not at the peaks, not necessarily 1,200, 1,100 yet. But I don't think that this is overly optimistic, and this is where it was right here. Actually, 1100s, 1200s is where it was before the Bitcoin Cash hard fork happened. So just some very, very, very interesting stuff, some very choppy waters out there. This is choppy waters reporting for... Okay, so 16,000 as opposed to 392. We have an entire other digit to get beyond for ION. There's so much room for growth. Unbelievable amount of room for growth. Actually, so that's like 4,000 to 10,000, 38,000. This market is going to do things that you will never, ever, ever see in the stock market. And, you can say all you want for volatility, but the potential that's there is amazing. So here's another example. I mean, ADA is a very strong project, and there are a lot of people that see it as something that is meant to step side by side with Bitcoin and its growth. It has a lot of polarized views, just like ONT does, EOS does, NEO has that as well. But what's happened over the past several days of quote-unquote growth with Bitcoin, I mean, the truth is that it's really, overall it's trading sideways. People get freaked out when it's at 5,000 now and freaked out when it's above 52. But what it's really done is kind of suck about 17% of the value out of really good projects like ADA. So if we look at, let's just get to the big guns here. I want to make sure that we cover the things that people would expect to see. I am glad to see IUSD is starting to get back into its 300 range. CELR, we need to see it get back into its 350, 370 range. XRP, go ahead and cover this one. It's been trading pretty flat. People were overemphasizing what they saw up here. I do think that it can find a strong 8,000. But once again, we have to see volume that can spread across both sides of the market. The market relies on itself. It's an electronic comparison to math. So, it doesn't really, share the feelings that we have about what it's doing. Litecoin is having a good moment. It is definitely showing some really good trend. This is the overall lifetime of the coin of lightness. So we look at it a little over a year ago there. And here's where it was for the Bitcoin Cash hard fork. And then it showed its value shortly after. So it's actually recovering extremely well. It's actually doubled beyond where the most coins were highly affected in that other side of the valley from the hard fork. So Ethereum Classic is showing its first signs really for the first time that it can maybe outdo where it was, just towards the end of the year. Here's that valley. It's really showed a lot of strength since November. So that might actually be an interesting one for some people that are more loyal to that. Ethereum, nope, just don't see it quite recovering yet. We can look at the short term with it, and it looks a little bit rosier, but 339 to 34, yeah, that's just not, it's not rebound time. Now, Ethereum had about $12,000 worth of, 12,000 Bitcoin worth of 24-hour volume being traded, and that was pretty impressive. Fuel just getting kicked hard in the teeth, and really looking for it to be worth in the, I would say in the 500-ish range. Looking at it's been as low as 80. Ouch. But yeah, it is definitely a higher valued coin than what we're currently seeing. This was a sign of optimism, and just the the false buy-in with Bitcoin has done exactly this. But it was only, the mid fours is really what it was shooting for before the hard fork happened. I'm not even going to say, what hard fork, you should know by now. So back here, looking more at a year in the life of, we should be able to see it, about 4 times its current growth. So I think it's fair to assume that it can do a third more of where it is now. I don't see it doubling that quickly. I don't think that we have what it takes for a real rebound to happen yet. As much as I want that to be the case, it's just not yet. See some really good steady moves with Doc. I think it's going to be a good over the distance type one to watch. DNT, I have high expectations over a longer time. DENT, I would avoid. And once again, CELR, it's just got to break out of this little loop right now. It's very interesting to see. It's gone up another 100 BTC 24-hour volume, and it's still just having a really hard time recovering. People are loading a little bit too heavy down here, but if Bitcoin continues to go down in volume without a huge spike, which we have about 2 hours, I would say, to see whether that's going to happen or not. 10:30 p.m. was the last time that it just went haywire. So we'll see. Eastern Standard Time, by the way. So yeah. Let's see. What else you guys are wanting to know about? BNB, why wouldn't it continue to grow if people continue to use it to pay their fees? I guess the issue I have is anybody thinking about whether a 0.05%, so half of a tenth of a percent savings, whether that is worth paying double what BNB was worth doing this last year. Not sure. The math just seems to suggest to me that you're paying a premium to save on fees, and I'm not sure that that works out to the advantage. Bitcoin Diamond was in sync with Bitcoin, now not so much. Be interesting to see it be able to do that again. Don't knock it till you tried it. Ion, struggling for that 400 range again. Really 4,000, but it has it traded down to 3. And ADA still suffering. So I mean, we actually have like a 2,000 something position that I set intentionally high just whenever it popped. And it's one of those. It's like, you know, it isn't big enough to where it really matters to the bottom line, but it matters psychologically to see it kind of get beyond that. So, day in the life of CELR. I just, you know, this much volume, and it's still, I mean, I've been watching, it's not, you know, waiting for earlier volume to kick in. This is a lot going on. So we should be able to see, let's see, 1 1 1 2 1 1 1 2 2 1 1. Yeah, not a whole ton there. So there's more buying going on there. I don't know, very, very interesting stuff. So I'm going to check real quick, see if anybody has any specific questions. And if not, then just keep your eyes open. Bitcoin has dropped another $3 million in 24-hour volume since we began this pleasant discussion. So let me check this out real quick. Okay, guys, I think that we're good. You can always write in our private group if you have any specific questions, any analysis you'd like to see done. Make sure and come join us, subscribe, thumbs up, comment, ring the bell. Come join us. Join us. Phone moi. All right, so for now, Archangel Alts out.